ثلاثة اثنان واحد. Assalamu alaikum everybody, and a very warm welcome back to another episode of the Arabic in 60 Steps podcast. Hope you guys are having an amazing day. So once again, we're doing another episode of this wildlife series, or it's not actually wildlife this time, as we're doing a domesticated animal. So not really wildlife, but as it's an animal in the Qur'an, still counts. So in this episode, we're doing the dog. Obviously, this whole series is kind of inspired by the 3rd of March, which was World Wildlife Day, and as a big enthusiast of conservation of wildlife, I thought it would be nice for us to do maybe 8 episodes throughout the month of March about different animals that we find in the Qur'an. We've done various animals so far. If you haven't seen those episodes, and there's 4 that come before this episode, we have talked about the ant, the elephant, the whale, and the spider, I believe, the last 4 episodes. But today, we are talking about the dog. So before we get into a couple of the ayat in which Allah talks about the dog, I'd just like to announce that there are still 5 spaces left on the exclusive Arabic in 60 Steps program, and I also want to congratulate the students who have secured their spaces. So Brother Farouk, Brother Rashid, and Sister Asima as well. So may Allah bless you guys, and congratulations for getting your places on the program. All 3 of those students are all in the USA as well, which kind of gives you a bit of an indication that we will be accommodating more USA time zones in our live sessions as well. So any of you guys over the pond who are considering it and weren't too sure if your time zones were going to be accommodated, that's a pretty strong indicator that they will be. So because 2 of the students are East Coast, and then another one of the students is a little bit further inland, but still Eastern time-ish. Anyway, so that's it. If you want to learn any more about the exclusive program, the key facts, the most important things for you to know are that first and foremost, it is exclusive. There's only going to be 8 spaces. Although if we get 5 by the end of the month, then I'll still run it. So there is a chance that the class could be as small as 5 people. Good. And then basically, I'm taking you guys under my wing for about 3 months, and I'm making it my responsibility and my goal to graduate you in that time. So you will be mentored and you'll be looked after through the whole Arabic in 60 Steps program, start to finish, by myself. And and we'll probably have maybe 4 or 5 hours a week of contact time. So that will obviously be through the whole of Ramadan as well. So there'll be loads of opportunity to benefit and increase your Arabic language knowledge. For the next sort of 3 months. So it's a really exciting opportunity that I've never run before, but I'm really excited about it and really looking forward to having some more of you guys in the team. So that's everything for the announcement. For the link to that, to the website where you can have where you find out all the information about it, will be in the show notes. If you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the description. If you go to my Instagram, it'll be in my bio. It's the only thing that I have open at the moment. So any links that you see anywhere on any of my social media will all be to the exclusive page. So over there, you'll be able to find out what exactly you'll learn, what exactly you'll get out of it, how you can secure your place on it, all kinds of questions like that, how the lessons will be delivered, what you'll get access to, all kinds of stuff like that you might want to ask. That'll all be there. So without further ado, let's have a little talk about the dog, or the kalb. Al-kalbu is the dog, and the plural of which is al-kilab, which is the dogs. Good. So what about the dog? What about the dog? Isn't it true that Muslims don't like dogs? No, that isn't true. The only reason why Muslims don't tend to have pet dogs is that the saliva of the dog is what we call najis, or it invalidates your wudu. If you've done ablution to prepare for your daily prayers or your salah, and a dog licks you, or you have saliva of a dog on you, then that nullifies your wudu. But it doesn't mean that Muslims think that dogs are inherently evil, or that they're bad. In fact, it can be very good to use dogs for practical things. Having dogs as guide dogs, or having dogs as hunting dogs even, and things like that are cases where dogs can be very useful. So good. So how many times is the dog mentioned? The dog's mentioned more than the spider, actually, even though we did that earlier. So there's about 5 times where Allah mentions the dog in the Qur'an, and 4 of those times are all in one surah. They're all in Surah Al-Kahf. There's a story of the people of the cave, and they have a pet dog. These people do. The only time outside of Surah Al-Kahf when Allah mentions the dog is in this parable that's in Surah Al-A'raf. That's the 7th surah of the Qur'an. It's ayah 174, 75 or 76, I think it is. Well, 170 something anyway, you could find it. There's a parable of the dog where Allah is saying that it's a parable of a dog, how a dog will pant whether you chase it or not. It's kind of similar to how how some people will believe or they will not believe, regardless of how you warn them or not. That's the case with some people. But anyway, there's one particular ayah in Surah Al-Kahf, three of these 5 mentions of the dog in the Qur'an all occur in one ayah. So it makes sense for us to focus on that one ayah for this episode. So in Surah Al-Kahf, in ayah 18, there is an ayah where Allah mentions the dog once. So I'll just let you know about that ayah, and then we'll move into the ayah where Allah actually mentions the dog 3 times, and we'll talk about the language in it, sort of word for word. So in ayah 18, where Allah says, وَكَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطٌ ذِرَاعِهِ بِالْوَصِيدِ. This is sort of وَكَلْبُهُمْ, and their dog. You'll notice that this hum is on the end of the term kalb 4 of the 5 times that Allah mentions the dog in the Qur'an. And, it's always a dog belonging to somebody, which is fitting, isn't it, as an animal which is domesticated. So, and their dog, وَكَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطٌ ذِرَاعِهِ بِالْوَصِيدِ. That expression sort of means that the dog is stretching out its arms. The dog is stretching out its arms. It's talking about the state in which the people were asleep in the cave, and the dog was asleep as well in the cave. But if we fast forward to the 22nd ayah, Allah Azza wa Jal says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, He says, سَيَقُولُونَ ثَلَاثَةٌ رَابِعُهُمْ كَلْبُهُمْ وَيَقُولُونَ خَمْسَةٌ سادسهم كلبهم ويقولون سبعة ثامنهم كلبهم رجما بالغيب. So what does Allah say? So سيقولون. So يقولون comes from the verb قال, which means to say something, and يقول in the present tense is he said. يقولون is the plural, they say. And this sa at the beginning puts something in the future. You put that little sa at the beginning of any verb and it will put it into the future tense. It means the same as sawfa. Sawfa puts things in the future as well. سيقولون, so they will say. ثلاثة. All of this is going on in a discussion about how many people there were in the cave, right? There was always a discussion about how many were the people of the cave. And so it's saying, they say 3. They say there were 3. ثلاثة رابعهم. The 4th of them. رابع means the 4th. So when we kind of put a number into this fa'il pattern, we end up with the ordinal number. So we're saying the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, etc. So if we took the number ثلاثة, meaning 3, and we said ثالث, it would mean the 3rd. Good. So what's going on here? So what's happening here is that they're saying that some of them are saying ثلاثة. Some of them are saying that there's 3 people, رابعهم كلبهم, and the 4th of them was their dog. It's saying that there were 3 people, but the 4th one was the dog. Okay, and then we go to an opinion of some other people who said, وَيَقُولُونَ. We've already learned about يَقُولُونَ. They say, خَمْسَةٌ سَادِسُهُمْ كَلْبُهُمْ. So some others say, خَمْسَةٌ. Some of them say 5. سَادِسُهُمْ كَلْبُهُمْ. That the sadis, that the 6th among them was their dog. So they say 3, but the 4th one is their dog. And others say there's 5 of them, and the 6th of them is their dog. Good. This word sadis catches a lot of students off guard. Okay, so you would, to get the ordinal numbers from the normal or cardinal numbers, we call them, we go from ثلاثة, 3, ثالث to the 3rd, right? أربعة is 4, رابع is the 4th. Now, the number 5 is خمسة, and the 5th be خامس. So what about the number sitta, which is what 6 is? You would expect us to get something like satit or something like that, but we don't. The actual root letters of sitta are sin, dal, and sin. So the 6th is as-sadis. So that's why it is وَيَقُولُونَ خَمْسَةٌ سَادِسُهُمْ كَلْبُهُمْ. The 6th of them is their dog. Good. وَيَقُولُونَ سَبْعَةٌ ثَامِنُهُمْ كَلْبُهُمْ. And they say 7. So another group of people, they say that the people of the cave were 7. ثَامِنُهُمْ. The 8th of them, كَلْبُهُمْ, is their dog. Right? So you kind of have all these different people, all kind of, putting out their views, that some of the people said there was 3 and the 4th of them was their dog. Some of them were saying there's 5 and the 6th of them was their dog. And then some of them were saying there's 7 and the 8th of them was their dog. And then, but what does Allah say about all of this? He says, رَجَمًا بِالْغَيْبِ. This expression, rajaman bil-ghayb, means casting stones in the dark. Casting in the dark, right? They're So let's talk about the individual words actually to kind of shed some more light on it. So rajaman is for things to be cast, right? Hence why we say when we talk about shaitan or Satan, we talk about him being shaitan al-rajim, a shaitan al-rajim. That he is the cast out shaitan, right? He's the cast out Satan. Bil-ghayb. So by the al-ghayb means the unseen or the absent. It's kind of a meaning that comes from that same root. I think I've mentioned on this podcast before how, like in the Arab world, even in university, like when they do like a register at the beginning of a class, and if you're present, then it's hadir, but if someone's absent, then it's ghaib. And ghaib is from this same root as the word al-ghayb. But in the Qur'an, the term al-ghayb is used to mean the unseen world, things that you can't see, things like angels and jinn and things like that. So that is the ayah for us to talk about today. So I'll read through it one more time for us to kind of pick out the language in it. So سيقولون ثلاثة رابعهم كلبهم ويقولون خمسة سادسهم كلبهم ويقولون سبعة ثامنهم كلبهم رجما بالغيب. Very nice. So another note on numbers, actually. This is quite a nice kind of segue into talking about numbers. I was talking to one of the other students today about numbers. A student called Luqman messaged me. But so numbers can be some of the most grammatically challenging parts of the Arabic language. There's some quite funky rules, really, that and the numbers that we've been dealing with in this lesson, even in my introduction, when I gave a little 3, 2, 1 into the beginning of the podcast, we noticed that we're dealing with numbers sort of from 1 to 10 in this episode, right? And numbers from 1 to 10 have their own rules. And one of the rules that applies from the numbers from 3 to 10 is that they take what we call reverse gender. So you'll notice that there's a ta' marbuta on the end of these numbers whenever we've used them in this lesson. Even in the beginning when I said thalathatun, okay, I said thalathatun, there's a ta' marbuta on the end, making the number 3 feminine. And when we see it in this ayah as well, we see thalathatun, and we see khamsatun, and we see sab'atun. So the reason why those are feminine is because the thing that they're counting would be masculine, right? And usually, like, even when you learn to count, you learn, like, even when children, my son at school, he's learning to count in Arabic at the moment, and like you learn the numbers in the feminine from 3 to 10, right? Thalatha, arba'a, khamsa, sitta, sab'a, thamaniya. You learn the on the end of all of them. And it's because kind of the default is that you'd be counting something that's masculine. So that's why they have a ta' marbuta on the end, to have a reverse gender with the thing that they're counting. So that's why all of them have a ta' marbuta, is if the thing that they're counting is masculine, and they're saying 3 of something, or 4 of something, or 5 of something, and the sort of the default case in the Arabic language is that things are masculine unless there's a reason to know otherwise. Good, but that's not the case with 1 and 2 though. 1 and 2 have their own rules, which is why I didn't use the feminine of ithnan or the feminine of wahid. Good. So I think that's it. I think that's it for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it. The dog particularly was one that I wanted to do because I'm kind of fascinated with our relationship with dogs. Like a little while ago, maybe, I don't know, a few months ago, I finished reading Sapiens, and this book called Sapiens is a really interesting theoretical history of humans, and there's a section in it which is really fascinating about our relationship with dogs. Though we've probably had domesticated dogs for like 15,000 years, which is a bit of a madness, really. Like we're so ingrained in each other's progress as species. It's really fascinating. But anyway, so that's everything for this episode. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you did, please don't forget to give it a like if you're listening to this on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you're on. I mean, I think you guys on iTunes can give me a rating and a review, can't you? If you guys can do that, I very, very much appreciate that. Or even if you don't, I appreciate you very much for lending me your ear. And see you guys in the next one. In the next episode, we'll be talking about the bumblebee. So we're going back down to another very small one. Inshallah, talking about the bumblebee, the next lesson. But lastly, I'll just finish off with saying that all of the links, or the only link that you'll need to get a place on the Arabic in 60 Steps exclusive program will be in the show notes below. And see you guys in the next one. We'll be talking about the bumblebee. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Have a great day.